Hi everyone, this is Jim. Today I'm here with coverage of the 2014 U.S. Women's Chess Championship taking place in St. Louis as well. There have been 6 rounds played so far and some exciting chess, so I looked back over the rounds and selected a few games I thought were particularly interesting. The Women's Championship is a 9-round round-robin tournament. There are 10 players, so 9 rounds, so 2 rounds shorter than the overall championship. They're traditional contenders in the championship, including Anna Zatonsky and Irina Krush, who have both won the championship multiple times in the past few years. There's quite a rivalry between the two of them. We'll see how that works out at the end. Currently, Zatonsky is in the lead with 5 out of 6, and Krush is half a point behind with 4.5 out of 6. But I just picked a couple of games from the first few rounds that I thought were interesting. And first game we're looking at here is a game between Tatev Abrahamyan and Sabina Foisor. So Tatev, I picked this because I noticed Tatev was playing the Italian game whenever she got the chance. So I don't know if the Italian game is part of her regular opening repertoire or if she prepared it especially for the championship, but there it is, bishop c4 whenever she had the chance. And she had quite a bit of success with this opening so far, so it's interesting to see how they are playing it. I always like to take a look and see how the top level players are playing some of the openings that I play myself. So c3 is the main move here, preparing to build up a big center. The Evans Gambit could be played here, but it's not so popular these days. But c3 is also the way I play it. Knight f6 is the main move, counterattacking the e-pawn. And now d4. So the most popular move in the databases is d3, just building up a solid center and looking for quiet play. But d4 is a suitable move for more aggressive players. There's an exchange. And then the bishop has to move, and bishop b4 check is the normal move. Now, in this position, what I play is knight to c3, which leads to the Mueller attack. It's probably an opening line that's well known to both players, and Tatev goes for something a little bit different. She goes for knight b d2. And although this may look superficially like it's defending the e-pawn, it's actually not. And this is also a pawn sack. And black can take the pawn, although that's not what happens in the game. I just wanted to show this as a variation. White just castles here, threatening to pin the knight. The knight can now exchange out on d2. White throws in this move, rook e1 check, and then the bishop comes back to block, and then bishop takes knight. And this is a good position for white. There's adequate compensation. White's a pawn down, but he has a castled king. He has one rook on an open file. He's got 3 pieces out. So he's got and a little bit more center control with this d-pawn. So he's got sufficient compensation for the pawn, although black should be able to hold this with good play. So it's like mini openings, slight edge for white, but nothing dramatic. But Sabina decided to avoid the gambit line and instead played d5, which is also a good move. Hold on a second. Instead, she played d5, kicking the bishop, and now, or forking the bishop and the pawn in a way. So now e takes d5 is played. So there's no longer a pawn sack, but white is left with an isolated pawn. Now both sides castle, and a3 to kick the bishop. The bishop doesn't really want to trade itself off for this knight. Black wants to keep the bishop pair. And so we can pause and consider the material is even, and both sides are reasonably well developed. They both have one bishop yet to be developed and need to get their rooks out onto open files. But other than that, things have gone smoothly. White has the isolated queen's pawn, which as usual has the pluses and minuses. It has exercises control over some central squares, gives white a little more space. But at the same time, it may become a weakness and a target later in the game in particular. So white continues with the move bishop a2, freeing up the square on c4 for our future knight maneuver. Bishop f5 is played, and now the knight comes to the c4 square. Bishop to f6, so getting these bishops on active posts and also starting to put pressure on the d pawn, and now knight c to e5. So black decides not to trade knights. That's a possible move here, but instead goes knight c to e7, keeping pieces on the board and playing for a longer game. Queen to b3, putting the queen on an interesting diagonal facing black's king, but of course there's a few obstacles in the way, so it's not checkmate immediately. Black plays the move queen c8, maybe preparing to bring a rook to the d file, and white goes rook e1, putting a rook on an open file, and now c6, showing up this knight on the center and making sure there's no accidents that happen along this diagonal. So right here is where white plays a very interesting tactical move, bishop to g5. So I'll go ahead and put it on the board. You might wonder, before playing a move like this, what would happen if black takes the bishop, white takes back with a knight, and then black plays the move f6, forking those two pieces. It's always something you have to worry about when you have two pieces together on the same file and there's a pawn, because either immediately or after an exchange there's often a fork that shows up. So you might want to think about that if you want to have your tactics puzzle for this game. Is this a sound continuation for either side? Okay, I'm going to continue with the game now. Actually, that's what was played. Bishop takes, knight takes, and f6. Now f6 certainly looks scary because it's opening up this diagonal towards the king. But in fact, it's the best move in the position. It's chasing away these knights, which otherwise, if they're left to hang around the king, could form a real threat of a sacrificial attack. So chasing back the knights, the Tatev chooses to bring the e-knight back to f3, and that exposes an attack on the pawn, the knight on e7. Because of the pin on this knight on e7 is actually not protected. So if, for example, black were to play pawn takes knight, then rook takes knight is the answer. So Sabina notices this, of course, and plays the move knight to g6. So solid game so far, about even according to the chess engine. This knight has to move now, and it goes to e4. Now we get an exchange. This maybe helps white a little bit. It develops a rook, and for the first time maybe there's a bit of an edge for white here, more than usual. King to h8 and rook a to e1. You see that, well, first of all, Sabina wanted to unpin this knight, have it free to move, so that's a natural move. But with that tempo, white was able to start building up on the e-file. Here, white plays the move queen d7. Black plays the move queen d7, maybe allowing a rook to come. Well, it connects the rooks and perhaps supports the idea of rook to e8, although that's not what happens. Bishop to b1, maybe with ideas of taking out this knight on g6, although there's a rook in the way at the moment. And now rook a to d8. But it's often an idea when you're attacking to try and eliminate one of the defenders around your opponent's king. Now h3 was played here. The engine actually prefers g3 as a way of kind of restricting the motion of the knight, but h3, and now knight d to f4. So with the knight unpinned, it's free to jump into this f4 square, and maybe it's eyeing some weaknesses here in white's position. Maybe it's restricting the knight a bit. So still a solid position for both sides. Queen to e3, cancel that. Queen to e3 was played, and queen to d6. So I don't know if there was a threat. Yeah, there was a threat to take the knight, and so it had to be defended. And now g3, kicking the knight. So this is an interesting moment. There's kind of two moves that could be played here. Knight to h3, leading to lots of complications. And it's funny, the chess engine likes this move at first, but after a few moves, this was not played. King to g2, f5, kicking the rook, rook to e5. You can see this is a pretty complicated position. The knight has been hanging all this time, but the rook was under attack. And now queen to d7. And it's too dangerous to take the knight because the pawn push here will attack the queen with check. So rook to h1, trying to round up the knight this way. And knight takes e5 is the recommendation. So, but with an advantage to white. So perhaps it was smart not to play this way. It looks like those knights are getting in trouble. So instead of taking on h3, the simple move knight to d5 was played. And after the chess engine has enough time to think about it, it agrees that knight d5 is a solid move and probably the best choice in this position. So just an interesting sideline there. Don't know how deeply both players analyze that, but maybe Sabina, thinking about that, got into a bit of time trouble here because there are some mistakes later on. The queen d3, just maneuvering the queen a bit. Of course, it has to get away from the attack of the knight. The king goes back to g8. Maybe not the best move. What's recommended here? Queen back to d7 is the recommended move here by the chess engine. So king to h8, g8. Rook to e6 now. Sorry, rook to e6. Yeah, so starting to invade with the rooks. And queen drops back to d7 now. And knight to h4. Going after this knight here, if allowed, white can win a pawn here at least by taking and taking. So black is under a bit of pressure here, and at this point makes a mistake. So what is the engine recommendation? The engine recommendation is to put something on e8. Yeah, trying to cancel the pressure on the e file, either the f rook or the d rook to e8. So instead, trying for something a little bit different, and perhaps in time trouble, Sabina played the move f5. And this is a mistake. White can grab that pawn. And after queen to f7, perhaps Sabina was thinking she would get some pressure against the f2 pawn here to counterattack, but there's just not enough there. White plays the move queen to e2. Making some counter threats with the queen and the rooks in a battery. And now if the queen tries to grab, oh, I'm sorry, of course can't grab the knight because the knight is protected by the rook, the bishop over here. The little bishop hiding on b1 has performed a useful role. It supported the knight coming to the f5 square. So so if we go back to the move bishop to b1, perhaps Tatev had that in mind all along. It's hard to say how far ahead these grandmasters think sometimes. After queen e2, black plays the move knight to c7, just trying to harass the knights. But actually after f4, I think black was already pretty much losing. So these moves are kind of a struggle to find to find a way out of a difficult position. Knight to e7 was played. Cancel that. Knight to e7 was played. Check. Forcing some exchanges. Knight takes, rook takes, getting a rook on the 7th rank and hitting the queen. And now if the queen just moves away, the knight is lost. So the game is over at this point. Sabina plays on with queen takes, and rook d to e8, trying to chase the queen away. The queen just drops back to b4, but it's a queen for a rook, and this is just too much of an advantage. The play goes on for some more moves. I'll just go through them kind of quickly. There's an exchange of rooks. Bishop to a2. King to h8, getting out of the pin once again. Bishop takes, pawn takes, and queen takes b7, and black resigns here. So interesting game, I thought. White kept up the pressure throughout the game. Black defended really well until after spending a little bit too much time delving into the complications, made a mistake in time pressure, and that's how the game ended. There was another game I also wanted to look at. This one is a little shorter, so and has a very nice tactical finish. So let's take a look at that. In this game, Irina Krush has the white pieces, and Kamila Baginskaite has the black side. And also, this game features an opening that I play, the Rubinstein variation of the Nimzo-Indian. So d4, knight f6, c4, e6, and knight c3. So allowing the Nimzo-Indian, which Camilla plays. Bishop to b4, and now e3, the Rubinstein variation. Just a very solid line shoring up the center and just preparing to develop pieces. Black castles. White's in this line in no hurry to challenge the bishop here and force an exchange that might damage the pawns, but just continues developing with bishop d3. d5 is played, and these are all the main moves. And now knight f3. And black plays c5, and white castles. So at this point, black has a decision to make. If the knight is no longer pinned, so the bishop on b4 is in some sense somewhat redundant, and it has to decide if it wants to sacrifice itself or trade itself for the knight, or do something else. A lot of times we go on with pawn exchanges in this position, but now let's see. Oh, I'll put on the opening book and get the exact. Yeah, the main move here is d takes c4, opening up a path back. C takes d4. Yeah, no, the main move is d takes c4. There, let's take a look at that. D takes c4, hitting the bishop, and then knight b to d7, developing this way. Okay. Now let's go back to the game. What black played instead is knight c6, the second most choice, and now white decides to open up the center. So c takes d5, e takes d5, and d takes c5. Now this is not the most common way to play, but it's an interesting way to play. White has just chosen here to give black an isolated queen's pawn, and now the bishop comes back and takes on c5. So if we back up to this move knight c6, that is the motivation for playing d takes c5 in this position, is to avoid the isolated queen's pawn position. But knight c6 allows it. Still, this is not the most common way to play. Black has a lot of compensation for the queen's pawn, and so has a good position actually. So, but once again, White has a target in the d pawn and has some long-term play against it, perhaps. So the game continues with the move h3, just keeping a piece from showing up on g4. Rook to e8, developing on the half-open file here. b3, opening up a diagonal for the bishop. Knight to e4. Okay, occupying a square here and allowing an exchange. White doesn't exchange right away, but plays bishop to b2, and now bishop to f5, shoring up the knight here. So so black is building up a strong point here on the square e4, but at any time white can trade it off, but to do so would involve giving up the light squared bishop. So it's an interesting choice whether it's good or not to do that. Rook to c1 was played instead, and this bishop drops back to b6, getting out of the glare of the rook. And now knight a4, chasing the bishop some more. So at this point, the engine is recommending actually giving up the bishop pair and just playing a move like rook to e6 or queen to d7, just developing the pieces off the back rank. But Camilla decides to save the bishop. The bishop pair is a good long-term advantage, but this maybe is not the best move here. And white starts to get some activity here with knight to c5, putting some more pressure on this pawn here. So after knight c5, black decides to trade and plays knight takes c5 and rook takes c5. So an interesting position. The question is this a good rook or a bad rook? It's been developed early, and it's putting some pressure on black's position, but it may become a target itself, for example, to bishop back to b6 simply. Black ignores that possibility for now and plays bishop to e4. And actually, this move was flagged as a mistake by the chess engine. The engine thinks what I suggested, bishop to b6 and bishop back to e6 would be the most solid way to play. But it already gives a slight edge to, a greater than normal edge to white, maybe half a pawn. And with this move, it's giving almost a winning advantage to white. So let's see how the game proceeds. White decides to go ahead and take the bishop. And taking back with the pawn is the logical way to play here. There's probably some kind of disaster if he takes with the rook. Yeah, well, rook takes e4, and it's dropping the d pawn, which is under pressure from the rook and the queen. So pawn takes is really the only move. And now instead of trading queens, white plays the move rook to d5. So this justifies that rook maneuver where the rook comes out, and now it's got a very active position in the center of the board. So the black's queen needs to move aside. Queen goes to c8, and as I was saying, white has quite a strong position on this point. But still, the game needs to be played. Knight to g5. It's white's turn. Knight to g5, and now you can see dangerous attacking ideas developing with all these pieces starting to point at the king. And black makes a mistake here with the move f6, trying to chase that knight away and reduce some of the threats. So this is another tactical puzzle for you. This is a very interesting position for white. White has a really strong attack, but there's just one move here which continues the attack. And all the other moves fail in one way or another. So if you want to take a minute, maybe even pause the video and look at this position, see if you can find the one, it's an attacking move, the one attacking move for white, the best move for white to continue the attack and eventually, well, fairly shortly actually, win the game. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away. First, let's look at some plausible moves that don't work. For one thing, queen to h5 there is a desirable move, threatening checkmate, but it's a bit premature. Black can actually just take the knight. And it's not all clear sailing, but in the end of the complications, black will be okay. If white just grabs the pawn here, threatening checkmate on g7, then black can defend with rook to e7, so that's no problem. The most challenging move here is actually the bishop sacrifice. Bishop takes g7, and now it's not really safe to take that knight. Black gets in take the bishop. Black gets in big trouble after king takes bishop and queen g5 check. But black can ignore that for a while and start trying to bring some other pieces over. So what's the engine saying? Bishop to h2 check or knight to e5? I like knight to e5. Bishop to h2 looks like a desperado, but bringing a piece over to help defend the king side, and black can hold on in this position. So so that's not the best way to continue the attack. That's rated about even or favorable for black. So the one move here that keeps the attack going is rook to d7. And now actually black is just completely lost in this position. Let's try a few things. Well, first thing is you can't take the knight because there's a checkmate in 3 here, starting with the move queen d5. So if we back up, the rook d7 move had 2 ideas. It had the idea of putting a rook on the 7th rank, but it also had the idea of opening up the square on d5. The rook was sitting there previously, and now that square on d5 is open and the queen can deliver this check, and there's no way to stop checkmate. Very nice checkmate. The rook supporting the bishop, delivering the final check, and there was no way out of that. So it's not possible to take the knight. What other plausible tries are there? Let's see, the chess engine is suggesting rook to e5, which just gives up material. That's a lot of times that's what happens. How about rook to e7? Rook to e7, once again, queen to d5 check is pretty deadly. The king runs to h8, and now knight to f7 check. And if the king comes back, let's see what happens in this line. King comes back, knight d6 check, winning the queen. And if the rook takes, then queen takes. And of course we have checkmate threatened on the 7th rank, and white is also up material at this point. So that's winning as well. So what black tried in this position, Camilla, played the move knight to e7, and now that controls the square d5, so those lines with queen d5 no longer work, but now the idea queen h5 is working, and there's just no defense to this. black grabs the rook. That queen to h5 sacrificed the rook. So you had to calculate that you were going to get enough compensation. But first queen f7 check was played, king runs to h8, and now bishop takes f6. So it wasn't about queen taking on h7, but it was about this. So if we back up, first of all, I'm curious to see if queen takes h7 is winning. No, queen takes h7 does not win. In fact, this is a line that is about even. So this is just a drawing variation, basically. Bishop takes f6 can be played, but there's no way. Yeah, the check here, the knight here, in addition to guarding d5, is also defending, well, allows knight to g8 to defend against the check of the queen on h7. So there's no mate there. So queen to f7 check, which is what Irina played, is the winning move. The king goes to h8, and now the last move of the game, bishop takes f6. And there's just no way to avoid massive loss of material or checkmate. So if we look at a couple of the ideas, first of all, notice that any pawn move, like pawn takes bishop, fails to checkmate immediately. There's two threats, right? There's a threat of checkmate on g7 and the threat of checkmate on h7. So somehow black has to find a way to deal with both of them. Some other idea, suppose rook to g8 to defend. Then there's the move queen back to h5, now threatening checkmate on h7, and there's not enough time. The rook tries to run away. There's not enough time for the king to escape. So the rook goes back here, say to d8. Queen h7 is mate. So what else? After queen h5, oh, it just has bishop h2 check. Yeah, so there's nothing to stop the checkmate. If h3, then queen takes h6 mate anyway, because of the pin on that pawn on g7. So total devastation. So the pawn can't be defended, and there's nothing to do but moves that give the game away in one way or another. Knight to f5 is another try. And it has some plausibility, hitting the queen and defending on g7, but now that sacrifices the queen. So that's just a way of giving the game away by giving away massive amounts of material. So in this position, after bishop takes f6, Camilla resigned, and Irina run that game in 23 moves, a nice miniature it's called when it's less than 25 moves. And we're studying for some of those tactical motifs and mating attacks. Very interesting attack there, I think. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm going to go back to coverage of the men's tournament after this, and then at the end I'll do a wrap-up of both tournaments and maybe choose another game or two from the women's tournament as well. Very interesting chess being played there. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.